Before I begin today, the last packet that you received was the packet on the volume of pyramids. It had several pages in this packet, but page 8, you need to mark that page out. It has a lot more information than you're ready for right now. So page 8, if you're not sure which one that is, then I will get back with you when I get back into town. Tonight, we're going to talk about the volume of a sphere. Now, a sphere is like a basketball or baseball or tennis ball or golf ball. A sphere is three-dimensional again, and when we're finding the volume, we're finding something that's three-dimensional. So our units are given in cubic units. Here is the volume formula that you will find on your formula chart. You'll need to locate that so you'll know where to find it during the test. The volume equals 4/3 times pi times r cubed. R stands for our radius, which in this case is 3 feet. Again, I will talk to you about pi, our special number called pi, and it will appear in all the formulas that have to do with a figure that has some kind of curve in it. Circles, all of that has pi in it, in the formula. Now, if you have a formula that has pi in it and you're trying to find an answer, there are 3 different ways that you can plug in a number for pi. Now, some of the instructions will say for pi, use 3.14. Some instructions, be sure and pay attention to the instructions, said use pi, which is approximately, that's what these stand for, approximately 22/7. Now, either one of these will give an approximate answer if you use those in the calculation for pi. If the instructions do not tell you to use 3.14 or 22/7, I want you to use the pi button that's on your calculator. Very important. That'll give you the most accurate answer when you use the pi button because it uses lots and lots of decimal places. These are estimates and they work fine, but on the test, only use it if the instructions tell you to use it. Okay, in this case, we're going to use your pi button. So, just like I've always encouraged you to do, when you're supposed to find the volume of a sphere, go find the formula and write it down the way it is on the instruction sheet. That way, as you fill the formula in, you're not going to miss anything. You'll keep it all straight. So, for this picture, which is a sphere, our volume is going to be equal to 4/3 is part of the formula, so you have to write 4/3 down. When things are crammed together, it means a multiply. In this case, the instructions didn't tell us to use anything different for pi, so we're going to use the pi button on our calculator. This means times also, and the R stands for the radius of the sphere. Now, a radius is defined as going from the center to the outside of the circle, to the outside of the sphere, and it's halfway across the sphere. All the way across is called a diameter. This calls for the radius. We want halfway across. And this happens to be 3 feet, so in place of R, you're going to put a 3. And now it tells you to cube 3. That means to take this times itself 3 times. Okay, so we filled in everything that's given in our formula. Now it's time to do the math. And if you'll remember your order of operations, we need to take care of the exponent first. So right here, we need to do 3 cubed. Now this means 3 times 3 times 3, and you can do that in your calculator if you want to. But 3 cubed on the calculator, 3 cubed is done like this on the calculator. You type your 3 in, And there's a key on the left-hand side of your calculator that we call the caret top. That's used to take a number to some power. So this says to take the 3 to the power of 3. It's going to look like this on your calculator. And when you press enter, it'll give you the answer of 27. This is called the caret top. It's a button on your calculator, and that's when you want to take something more than squared. 3 to the power of 3, and it will give you the answer, 27, the same as 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, so let's finish up the formula. So now we have volume equals 4/3 times pi times 27 now. And if you do this in your calculator, you're simply going to make the fraction 4/3 times the pi button times 27. I'm going to do that for you here. And I get volume equals 36 pi. Now, some of your answers, when you use pi in the calculator, it will give you the answer in what we call in terms of pi. This is a perfectly good answer. But what if your multiple choice answers that you're given are not in terms of pi? If that's the case, here is the answer, 36 pi. But if I want the decimal equivalent to that, I will use the, let me find it, toggle button right here. If you push the toggle button once, it will change your terms of pi, which was 36 pi, and it will change it into the decimal equivalent, 113.097. So V equals 113 plus time 0.097. Both of these are the correct answer. Both of them have the same value. The one that you use is going to depend on the answers in your multiple choice. Are they all decimals, or are they all in terms of pi? Both of these mean the same thing, and you can go back and forth with these answers in your calculator using the toggle button. So the volume here, and I ran out of room, but these would be in feet cubed. So 36 pi feet cubed, because we're in feet, but we're using volume, and volume is three-dimensional. Three-dimensional. Let's do one more of these, and then we will investigate the hemisphere. Sphere. Okay, and we need to find the volume. So the very first thing we're going to do, again, is go to the formula chart and find out what the formula is for the volume of a sphere. Volume equals 4/3 times pi times r cubed. When you write the formula down first, it will help you keep everything in line, and you won't make the mistakes that you possibly would have made. So underneath, now we're going to plug in the values that we know. 4/3 let's say they told us use 3.14 for pi. They would say that in the instructions. Very important for you to read the directions. So in this case, since it says this in the instructions, then when you get to pi, instead of using the pi button, you're going to type in 3.14 times. Now this is the radius, and we found out that the radius is halfway. It's from the center to the outside of the sphere. Notice that they gave you 8 yards, but that isn't the radius. 8 yards is the diameter all the way across. Be very, very careful about this. The radius is only halfway, so half of 8 is going to be 4 for the radius cubed. Now all you have to do is your math. We know that we want to do exponents first because of your order of operations. 4 to the third power is going to be put in your calculator. 4 to the power of 3. 4 to the power of 3, and that will give you 64. So we have 64 here times 3.14 here times 4/3. And now it's time to use your calculator. And the answer, since we didn't use the pi button, it probably will not give you an answer in terms of pi. So you'll have volume equals 267.94666, and it keeps on going. Now, what if they tell you to round your answer to the nearest hundredths place? The nearest hundredths place. This is the tenths place. Right after the decimal is the tenths place. This is the hundredths place. If they said round to the nearest hundredths place, they don't want anything past that. This is the answer they want, with one exception. After you box in the number that they want, you have to look at the outsider here. If this number behind your box, if this number is 5 or larger, you're going to round this number up, which in this case is. So your answer that you will give on your test would be 267.95. This is the answer rounded to the nearest hundredths place. If this was below 5, you would leave the 4 the same way as it is right now. So this would be your answer. We're working in yards. Cubic yards. 267.95 cubic yards. This is how you find the volume of a sphere. Now, you've heard the word hemisphere usually used when they're talking about part of the globe, our Earth, and they talk in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. What they're talking about is half of a sphere. This is called, let me get a marker that works. Hemisphere. And a hemisphere just is half of a sphere. So if they give a picture that looks similar to this. Imagine if it was the whole sphere, which is what we're going to have to do in order to find the volume of the hemisphere. I just want to find the volume of half. And the easiest way to do that, or probably the only way we're going to do it, is to find the volume of a sphere, the entire sphere. It equals 4/3 pi r cubed. But before you begin to start plugging things in here, what you need to do is understand you're doing only half of the sphere, which means we took the whole sphere and divided it by 2, didn't we? So you take this number that you get for an answer up here, then divide by 2. You're simply finding the volume of a sphere and then cutting it in half. That's all you're doing here. So let's work this problem out. We're going to use the pi button this time. So I have 4/3 times the pi button times r halfway across, 5 to the 3rd power, divided by 2. So to find the number on top, again, you're going to use your calculator. 5 to the 3rd power is 125 times pi times 4/3, which gives you on top 523.6 over 2. Over 2 means to divide by 2. And when you do that in your calculator, your answer will be volume equals 261, and I guess it's approximate because you're going to be rounding it, 0.80 inches cubed. This will be the volume of the hemisphere. I only want this part, not the top part. I found the entire sphere and cut it in half. Now be very careful about remembering to divide by 2 for a hemisphere, because there's a very good chance that they'll give you this number as a possible answer because they think you might forget to divide by 2. But it's only a half of a sphere, so you have to divide by 2, and this would be the correct answer. These pages for finding the volume of the sphere and finding the volume of a hemisphere are in the packet that you have already received. The next video, this is for Friday, October the 2nd, and you should already have the pages to practice on this. Even the remote people, the people that are in class, should all have copies of this. Your next video will be the video for Monday, October the 5th, and I will introduce surface area to you. We will be talking about the surface area of a prism and the surface area of a cylinder. The people that were in class on Thursday already have the packets for surface area. The rest of you will receive them in your email. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.